You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Here we go.
Are we doing it?
We're doing it.
What is that like? Here we go, here we go, here we go now. Here we go, here we go, here we go.
Baby, we talked about rapping earlier
here we go
on another
now.
episode. We're not rapping. We're not rappers.
Get busy.
We're not going to start rapping.
Are you sure?
Except for presents. It's
Did I actually mute this? Okay, cool.
This isn't the first episode of April, but this is the first episode in April with the new backdrop.
Bam, bam. Look
So
at
if
that.
you are new to the podcast, every month of 2022, we are giving away the backdrop. This month, it's this amazing, beautiful backdrop.
It's my favorite so far.
Yeah. Stephanie and I, we're actually debating whether or not we're going to give this one away because we like it so much.
Yeah. I was like, are we the winners? Are we the winners?
But
so you should go check it out.
Yeah, go to Instagram and check it out. And you can see the backdrop as well as how to enter to win said backdrop.
Also, you might be competing with us to win it. Just kidding. But there might be one in our future.
Yeah, we might just definitely buy one.
Yeah.
So, love, let's dive right in.
Okay.
I don't have anything.
You don't have anything? Do you know
I mean, I do kind of, but not really.
Kind of, not really. I did something before I came up this time.
What'd you do?
I changed like our routine up.
Okay.
I cleaned my own glasses.
Yeah, the last few episodes,
What do you think?
huh?
Yeah. I was like, you know what I
has
can
been
do?
a podcast of cleaning glasses.
I mean, you having to find the magic glass
Right.
cleaning shimmy shammy shiner.
Shimmy, shimmy.
I don't know what they're called. I just went blank.
The
thingy?
Yeah, the shimmy shammy
I
shiner.
think the shimmy shammy shiner works well.
That is a great name for a Shark Tank product.
Right? Shimmy shammy shiner.
Mm-hmm. Do you want a piece of paper or are you good?
Actually, maybe.
Yeah?
Yeah, just in case. I was told to put my notepad aside. So.
You're cute. Yeah, we have these every episode now, and very rarely do we actually use them.
I use them sometimes.
But
I use them a lot, actually, sometimes. A lot sometimes. Sometimes I use them a lot, and a lot I use them sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about what we should talk about was our conflict resolution,
Oh, you want to talk about
our
that?
list.
Well, I did wear happy clothes for that, so. Are you confused?
Is it because it's not a happy topic?
Well, I set the mood with a happy. I brought in the positivity vibe.
We can get to it. You said you had something that earlier you were talking about something that you wanted. It
No.
was just kind of a...
It's just kind of a thing. Well, I'll just talk about this and we'll go to the conflict resolution.
Okay.
So, I saw a video that our friend Christine did where she was talking about how she gets centered, anyways, I'll just skip to the part that was like my inspiration. She talked about breathing in her happy color and sitting visualizing her happy color, and hers was yellow. And I was like, yes. Like, I know that, like, that was such a good, like, reminder of, remember this thing? As it was, like, out of my practice. And so when she was talking about it so beautifully, I was like, oh, I love that. And I walk people through that, but I couldn't, like, until she said it, I was like, I didn't hear it. So she said it to me. She didn't say it to me. She said it on her Facebook page, but I heard
like
her.
She was speaking to you.
I heard her. And
So what's the practice?
oh, I'm just going to say what I did for this part.
Okay.
If you want to know what the practice is, then you need to go check out Tranquil Healing's page. And I think it was on her personal page. So go check that out and get it right from her, because she did a really good job explaining it.
Okay.
So how I embodied it was when I was young, like my favorite colors, or how I would say it, was hot pink and black. And so I love this shirt, and I don't wear it that often. And I decided I was going to wear it today because I wanted like that boost of happy color. And I went to put on Levi's, uncomfortable Levi's, and saw my black leggings laying there. And I'm like, this was my favorite like combination. And I got all excited that I was like dressing still in my favorite colors when I was a kid, when I was little, which was hot pink and black. It was like this fluorescent pink. And I almost put on my little black boots, the black booty boots, because that was a thing back then too.
Black booty boots?
Yeah, the little boots that I guess they would go like up your calf. But do you not remember the boots in the 80s?
I'm thinking...
Okay, well, girls wore...
Black booty boots.
I just call them booty boots because they were little boots. Not like butt, not like booty.
Not like big, long
Up to your butt boots?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I can hear that. No, they're just like black boots, like ankle boots.
Yeah.
Whatever they're called.
Boots.
We'll call them boots. I almost wore them just because I wanted to be
boots.
I wanted to be in the full getup because
Yeah.
I was always in like stretchies and those boots. I loved those boots. I was always wearing those boots in the color. I'm like, I'm just like embracing my little stuff, my inner stuff.
That's so beautiful.
So I'm ready with my happy colors. I'm wearing my happy colors.
So
thank you, Christine.
Is pink your happy color?
I think it might be. I don't know. I think it might be. I don't know. I have so many colors that I like, but this is like with all the shadow work and the inner child and the parts work and the healing that we're doing. My inner child right now that is healing is really happy to be wearing hot pink and black. So
do you remember, we may have talked about this at some point, but do you remember your clothes, shoes, the things that you wore as a child really, really well? Like, do you have a real clear image of those or not too clear?
I've got a couple. Because I was like, no, and I'm sitting here thinking, and I got a flash of like a pair of LA Gears that I had and a jacket, a Levi jacket that my mom made me. Because she made me, like, it's like that fringe that was on the back, and she painted. You're making fun of me.
I'm not.
I was
remember the
such
80s,
an
baby.
80s.
Yeah,
like I loved the 80s.
Yeah.
I was in my element. I had the crazy wild big hair, the mismatched bright clothes, the bracelet, like the ponytail over here. I was an 80s baby. So I came to in the 90s, and but
I think it was a great time for fashion.
I like it. I still like if 80s came back, I would be running around with some leg warmers and all kinds of stuff. Like I'm doing it right now. Hot pink. Almost wore my boots.
I remember shoes really clearly.
Yeah.
Because it was it's like, countless pairs of shoes.
Did you have the pumps?
I had the pumps at one point, right? The Reebok pumps.
I don't know if they're Reebok.
They were Reebok.
Were they? Okay.
Well, I think we probably didn't have Reeboks because
I didn't have Reebok.
Yeah. BK Knights was another brand of shoes.
Yes, BK Knights. I remember that.
LA Gear.
LA Gear was big.
Yeah, I remember.
Did you have any FUBUs? I liked
No,
FUBU.
I never did FUBU stuff. But I remember shoes really well. I remember like a handful of T-shirts. Not a handful, a lot of like. I remember a lot of the
Are we
clothes
talking
that I would
80s
wear.
or 90s time frame?
Just any time period
Any
from
time
your childhood,
frame?
yeah.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? I remember.
It's like I have to take back my Adidas and FUBU if we're still in the 80s.
I don't remember if I saw this picture recently or if I was just thinking about it. And I remember a coat from when I was little, like probably 5 or younger. And it was a winter coat. Mm-hmm. And it was definitely a hand-me-down because I just got all of my older brother's stuff, right? So Adam and Brian would wear stuff, and then eventually I would wear the same thing. Mm-hmm. And this coat specifically, I remember by the time it came to me, whether it was, who knows, but one of the pockets had a hole in it. And so you couldn't put anything in that pocket, but I would put my hand in there and like play around with the hole. And like, do you know what I mean? It was like a little fidget spinner for the 80s was the hole in my pocket in this coat.
Yeah.
And then like.
Fidget spinner that's totally it. I still do that if there's a hole.
Right.
I'm like.
And then like the kind of winter gloves that used to have
we
back in the 80s.
We talked about those recently, so I can see them now.
Where they like look and smell and feel because they get wet and then they have a specific smell when you've been out playing in the snow with them for a long time. And then like I remember the way they tasted.
Oh, because you always had
because you would like grab them with your mouth and try to pull it on, and
that still gets me like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
I'm like,
all that kind of stuff is like imprinted into this little brain of mine.
Wow.
So I just think it's funny.
I love it. I love it. I need to find some. Oh my god! So I was like trying to think of the pictures. I'm like, we should find some pictures when we were kids of those crazy clothes. But I just remembered the picture of me and my mullet. I was like, that's not making the light of day. Yeah, you heard it right. My punk rock haircut. That was not a punk rock haircut.
Have you told that story?
I don't
it's a
think
funny
so.
Story. Tell that story.
Is it?
It's very funny. Because you were in love with like Joan Jett.
Joan
and you
Jett.
wanted to be super cool and punk rocker.
I just got done like talking about like how I loved the 80s.
Right?
So like the epitome of the punk rocker, and she had that like
the rebel and
the spike.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn about my bad reputation.
It's so funny, babe, because tell the story.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Tell the
Okay.
story because it's hilarious.
So if you're not familiar with Joan Jett,
do yourself a favor and get on Google.
Yeah. So she had this like beautiful black hair that had this like kind of David Bowie-ish now. I think it's kind of like a Joan Jett, David Bowie hairstyle, the kind of spike that was like big, like up here. And see, I still can't describe it well. I'm still seeing the spike up top and like the long in the back. So you can hear how I ended up getting the haircut that I got.
But do you remember describing it as like Joan Jett?
No, I didn't say Joan Jett. I said punk rocker haircut.
Okay.
Punk rocker haircut, and I want it spiky on top and leave the back.
Okay.
Spiky on top. And they're like, "Are you sure?" And my mom was nice enough to let me get the haircut that I want. And I still remember being like tiny.
Yeah.
And sitting in the chair, and both of them like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" Like before going to cut, I'm like, "Yes, are you sure?" So I was so sure that I wanted the punk rocker haircut. And
How old were you?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. You saw the picture. Try and like gauge my age.
God, 7, maybe 8, something like that.
It was definitely elementary school.
Yeah.
I think it was second, third. Yeah, probably second grade. I don't know. Anyways, she did it. She like took my hair in a ponytail and chopped it right off on top. Chopped all my hair off on top. So it was spike. And it wasn't what I wanted, but I didn't understand that it was a mullet either. I was like trying to make it do its thing. And so I had spike, like a flat top. And then all my long hair down the back. So I was trying to have a punk rocker haircut, and I walked around with a mullet. I had a girl mullet in the 80s. That's trying to be a punk rocker.
Yeah.
And then I would take so much time like trying to get the spike right and doing that, but I would hardly ever brush the back of my hair.
So it's all matted with sleep.
So I was just like, because, oh my gosh. So I was a cool kid. Let me tell you, everybody wanted to hang out with this lady.
We did flat tops for a time
Yeah.
when I was a kid growing up.
Did you?
Yeah, because there was the transition where my dad took us to an actual barbershop, and we started going to the barbershop to get our hair cut. And flat tops were like $3 or something. And it was like the specialty at the barbershop. So I think that's probably a component to it. But yeah, we did flat tops for a while. Yeah, that was definitely like...
I have not seen a Craig flat top picture.
They're out there.
Yeah,
we'd probably have them somewhere in this house if we dug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like that, or should I text your dad? Be like, send it to me, not post it on Facebook.
Right.
Like, here you go, mijo.
Yeah.
I would love to see it. I bet you were really cute.
Something.
It can't be worse than...
It's probably exactly the same
Did we have the same haircut?
Without them. I didn't have the mullet. I didn't have the curly mullet in the back.
You didn't have a mullet during that time, but I ended up with a mullet.
Yeah.
I had a mullet before Billy Ray Cyrus had a mullet.
See, there you go. He got it from somewhere.
Right? Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. I just didn't know of Billy Ray in the 80s.
I don't think anybody's fact checking it, babe. I think you're okay.
I would like to know. He wasn't a big deal to the 90s, I don't think.
Right? Achy Breaky Heart.
Should I start singing that one?
No. No. Okay. Rules of engagement.
Okay. Now
Should
we're
we go
ready.
into
We're
it?
in a good mood. Did you bring your thing up?
No, but I've got it on the drive.
Yeah.
So we can just...
Are we going to share it in detail?
We can share as much or as little as we want. It's up to you. What do you feel like?
I am actually... I think it's really good, but I can tell, like, I was also dragging out my funny story.
Because you don't want to get to it?
Because I'm nervous. I'm super nervous.
Are you wanting, because obviously we this is on the fly, right? We hadn't had this conversation.
No, we hadn't.
So we can
I'm okay with
shift gears and...
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I think.
Let's see.
We'll see.
Let's find out. We might need them.
I don't know.
We might need the rules of engagement. So the idea is there's a way to have disagreements and arguments in a relationship. And we recently learned this technique going through a couples workshop with the yoga couple, Matt and Ash. And we've talked about them, I think, before on the podcast, and we're going to be talking about them a lot just because they have a lot of beautiful things that they offer. And we're also signed up.
Are we talking about that? We hadn't talked about it yet.
Yeah, we're talking about it. Of course we're talking about it.
Are we talking about it
Yeah.
now? Is it time?
Yeah.
Guess what we're doing?
Yeah, we signed up for...
It's an adventure.
Their Sacred Yoga Institute. It's an 8-month course to get certified as a yoga teacher. And that's what we're doing. So it starts this week, actually.
That is the simple version of it.
Yeah,
there's
so
way
more to it.
It's not just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
so
just...
we're getting skills.
Yeah. And we're very, very excited. And
All
we're
right.
going to be bringing a lot of it to the podcast, and we're going to be talking a lot about it. And if you're a longtime fan of the podcast and you've been with us this is the 6th year that the podcast has been a thing. We're very quickly approaching episode 300.
Yes.
That's going to be at the end of the month. We have a big surprise for that as well. We're excited for episode 300.
Is it going to be as a big surprise for everybody as we think it is?
Might as well make it a big surprise.
Okay. Are they going to be like...
I think it's a big fucking deal.
Okay,
Right?
it's a big surprise.
It's a big
It's
deal.
mullet big.
It's going to be a good episode. And we'll try not to have unison tea drinking during the episode.
Why not? My tea turned out really good. This is a really nice cup.
Hey, stop distracting from the
But
conversation.
it's a really
at
happy
hand.
cup of tea to go with my happy shirt and my happy hair.
Do we just want to do a happy episode?
No, it's okay.
This isn't a hard topic in the sense of, it's just because we had some practice today.
We did have some practice.
Yeah, we had some really in-depth stuff that we moved through today.
Yeah.
Like every frickin' day this year.
2022. I
But,
almost just said 2020.
You're right.
That's what almost came out.
Anyways, Matt and yoga.
Matt and yoga.
Matt and Ash, the yoga couple. Brad and Tiffany Lancaster were on the podcast.
True Life Balance.
Yeah, they turned us on to these guys. And so
Game
we've-
changers for us. We're so
just
grateful
massive.
for them.
Part of the workshop that we went through, they talked about this rules of engagement, essentially, a way to kind of move through arguments and disagreements that come up in a relationship.
Conscious fighting, conscious communication.
Consciously, right?
Yeah,
Rather than
reactive.
kind of the scattershot way that I know we've done it.
Not us.
And so it was all really, really, really beneficial. And the idea is that you basically make agreements ahead of time, and you sit down and you kind of go over what is needed from each of you, what you're, we'll just dive into it, I guess. So first and foremost, go ahead.
Well,
What's up?
I want to go a little slower.
I know I'm going fast, huh?
No, you're good. You're not going fast. I just want to go a little slower.
Okay. What would you like to do?
Like,
Would you like me to slow it down a little bit?
slow it down.
Let's turn the lights down low.
I was trying to come up with a radio station name. That's
Tune
Marvin
in
Gaye.
to Cable 93.
Oh God.
That's the country station.
I don't think they slow it down like that. So like one of the first thing they talk about is before you engage, like checking on your basic needs. Like, are you in a position, are you in a place, a healthy place where you can show up compassionately as yourself? So they were talking basic needs of like first checking in with yourself before you're bringing something up with your partner. Basic needs. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Do you have to go to the bathroom? Are you tired? Are you too hot, too cold? Like overstimulated?
Yeah, just really from that perspective of, are we in the midst of a traffic jam on the freeway, right? It's like, what's going on?
Have you not eaten all day? And you're like, you want to talk right now? Step up, buddy. It's, I guess I shouldn't make jokes, but it's what I do. So like checking with those needs. And then the other one, do you remember the next one?
Just emotionally.
Yeah. Are you
like if you're emotionally charged? And because oftentimes, we're not going to go into what took place for us today just because it's real fresh, and also that's a lot of personal stuff. But that was important. You had something that you wanted to bring up, and it came up last night as we were like falling asleep,
tired,
and getting ready to go to bed. And it was the realization that now wasn't the time to do it because of how tired we were, and just simply we were literally in bed ready to fall asleep. And so you brought it up this morning. I almost, like, it was a practice because I almost brought it up last night. Like I was acknowledging that I was too tired, that I knew you were too tired. It was the end of the day. The energy levels were down. It was, and I almost went for the buy-in where I was like asking if you'd be ready or giving you like that awareness last night. I was almost like, hey, I know now's not, I know, right? I heard it. I'm like, now's not the time, but tomorrow when we have energy, there's something that I want to discuss. Right.
And I was like, I luckily wasn't too tired that I caught it. I'm like, no, you talk about that in the morning. Don't let him, he's going to be like, well, I'm not sleeping now.
That's such a hard thing to do, babe. For you. I mean, like, I'm really like proud of you for because that's a really hard thing to sit with an issue, right? I mean, the whole thing about this thing that we're talking about, this conscious conflict resolution kind of compassion thing, we'll just call it conflict resolution.
Yeah.
Even though did you know back in middle school, I was a conflict.
You were what? Whoa.
What did they say?
It didn't sound like.
Did they say convict?
No, it didn't sound like that. You'll hear it on the replay.
Okay.
Because people just were like, what? What did he just say?
I was a conflict resolution officer.
Were you?
Do you know what that is? Did they have they probably didn't have those.
I was in the safety patrol when I was in 6th grade.
Were you? So I went
pretty sure it's the same thing.
I went through extensive training in 6th grade, I'm sure, right? It was 8-month program.
It's not the same thing.
I'm teasing.
Oh, okay. I'm like, that's a lot.
No, I'm sure it was sign up if you want to wear a t-shirt.
Is it like the Hope Squad kind of nowadays?
No, probably. It was probably the earlier version of the Hope Squad. But the whole idea was that if there was trouble, rather than trying to fight it out on the playground, or...
You were a mediator.
Yes. So the conflict...
How old was it again?
Middle school.
Middle school?
6th, 7th, maybe 8th grade.
Okay.
And so
they would come to you?
Yes. And if I saw trouble...
Did you intervene?
I would intervene as a conflict resolution guy and be like, hold on, guys. Hold on.
Wow.
Let's calm down here. Let's have this, we're going to deal with this by talking rather than fighting it out.
That fits so much.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
It's pretty funny, huh?
It's kind of cool.
Right up my alley.
It is right up your alley.
Anyways.
Wow.
Go ahead. What were you going to ask?
I just think that's cool. I mean, my thing was, it was my way to be introverted and not have to be outside and trying to mingle with the whole school during recess.
Yeah.
So I got to just hide in the halls.
And patrol the halls in case somebody was...
did you have a bathroom pass or whatever? Because that was stupid thing and I didn't really care. So I just got to stay in and be introverted and hide away from everybody.
Nice.
So it was perfect.
Yeah, I was out there walking my beat.
Yeah?
During recess.
Did you have a
nightstick?
I was just seeing you as a middle
Officer
school.
Krumsky.
Something. There was something. Did you have a pin? You had a clicky, didn't you?
I can't remember if they gave us t-shirts or if it was it may have been a badge or something that you would put on, but it was there was definitely something that you wore that signified conflict resolution person. And I was so excited.
I just learned this today about you.
I was so excited. I was so proud. And so I prided myself on being able to, let's figure this out, guys. We don't need to fight. You guys are upset with each other. Let's figure this out. We can figure this out. You
were just a natural at it your whole life. You were breaking up middle school fights. Those kids fight dirty.
Right.
That is if you're handling middle school kids, that's the job the teachers didn't want to do.
Exactly.
And they're like, we got a plan.
Let's employ these other kids. This will fix it. So we can stay in the teacher's lounge and drink and smoke cigarettes. And
contemplate our life choices.
So back to the future here, where we're at. Mm-hmm. Conflict resolution, compassionate way to move through arguments. Where the fuck did we leave off?
We were at our basic needs, checking in, and then the buy-in, and are you in this space?
Oh,
because the other one might not.
I was giving you props for holding it last night.
Thank you.
And not like that's really, I struggle with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if there's something that I want to talk about, it's really hard for me to just be like, I'll just sit on this and wait until the morning. So kudos to you. That's really mature. And I appreciate it. Because, yeah, it would have definitely given me a different night.
Right? It was,
right?
yeah, it's such a good night.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. It was really,
Yeah.
yeah. So this morning, you bring it up immediately. And it's beautiful the way that you did it. Because you went through these steps of like, hey, I've got something that I want to talk about, you know, and it's important to me. And so I want you to just acknowledge that we're moving towards that space. And I'm like, cool. So then
Sure, basic needs are met.
exactly take care of what I needed to and kind of clear my mind and get ready. And okay, now we can go into it. So that's important. Basic needs are met.
Mm-hmm.
Also checking in with yourself emotionally, where you're at. Because that's a hard part for me. Oftentimes I can acknowledge, okay, I've eaten, I'm not tired, you know, I'm not, oftentimes I'm distracted with work or something else that has to kind of get those things off of my plate, or at least to a point where I can set it down. Now I can be present. But the emotional part of it.
Like if you're charged.
Yeah. Oftentimes if I'm activated in any way, it's hard for me to say I'm activated. I want to wait.
Yeah.
That's really hard for me.
Because when you're activated, you're like,
well, in
sometimes.
my mind, that's how I'm going to solve the activation.
Right.
I'm going to talk through this, and then however I'm feeling internally is going to shift and change. So that's that's my thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to do a better job of like acknowledging. But what it feels like, especially when it's something that you bring to me,
Mm-hmm.
it's one thing, like I totally have all the patience in the world if it's something that I have that's coming up for me that I want to address.
But if I'm like, I want to talk about something,
Then I feel like I have to drop everything and show up, and I have to be there.
Wow.
Because if I'm not, you're going to get mad at me, and you're not then going to bring something up to me next time. And it's like this whole game in my head of, so it immediately makes me anxious.
Yeah.
And
were you not ready then? Did you just...
I was ready this
Okay.
morning, but the problem is that just knowing that we're going into something and that you have something that you need to bring to my attention, or you want to bring to my attention, immediately activates me.
Yeah.
So it immediately takes my emotional homeostasis spot
and throws it. It's
activates
like it's like that. How do we tell the other person basically, oh, we need to talk, without making it sound like we need to talk?
Right?
I tried.
You did good. We just have to practice it more.
And then, well, afterwards, after we got through our like the what I brought to the table, then you had something, and it immediately, immediately, like it was like, oh, I remember. Oh gosh, you said it funny. It was, anyways, it was, we got through it. We got through it. So I understand that flip side, because I then was immediately feeling that, like trying to, like, what did I do? Like running through stuff, and like, have I held up to my commitments on this? Have I, like, just trying to go through.
So this takes a lot of practice.
It does. We're newbies.
We're brand new at this.
At taking it through the conflict resolution agreements, our rules of engagement.
What's really interesting too, when we learned this process and kind of got this new information and this new way of looking at kind of disagreements and arguments, I would have thought, and I did think, that we were
already doing
such a great job.
Right.
And our level of communication and our ability to connect and our ability to like connect and communicate during really difficult things, all of that stuff has been really high level in my mind. And it has. It's not a minimization of where we're at or where we've been. But there was areas that we were definitely needing some improvement.
Yeah, there was.
And some areas that definitely were not serving us any longer. And so it's been really beneficial to kind of incorporate that.
So much so.
So yeah, get your needs met.
Yeah.
And acknowledge those needs. There's another big kind of, not caveat, but I guess it is a big caveat to this whole concept and idea, is you both have to be willing to do this.
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, I want to do this with my partner, and you bring it to them and they're like, what are you talking about? That's not something that I'm interested in. Or if they just check out, or if they're not willing to commit to this and also commit to like a part of the rules and a part of the process is like, we're coming back to love. This is all based out of the love and connection that we have. And that's where we're headed. This isn't let's fight and break up. This isn't let's fight and have an ongoing battle that's not solved. It's solution based. We're going towards a resolution, and everything is always coming back to love. Always. And coming back to each other. Mm-hmm. And that's a really important thing. Yeah. And it's funny because I think you and I have always had that with each other. And I think that there's a part of us that has always like known that inside, but just really acknowledging it and speaking it and stating it and writing it down on lists and doing these things kind of really gives it gravity and weight.
It does.
Where it's like, because sometimes it's really hard to remember in the thick of these arguments and these fights and these wounds and this pain. It's really easy to get lost in all of that anger and fear and sadness.
It is.
So it's like,
remember, we're in this together.
Exactly.
It's you and me.
Yeah, this isn't you're doing something. This is, hey, we have an issue that we need to look at together. Yeah.
So we can solve it.
Mm-hmm.
We can solve it. We're in this together.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
It's massively important. So for us, and this is based off of, like we said, the yoga couple, and it's tweaked a little bit.
It's tweaked a little bit. It's strongly, like, obviously, like they gave us the framework.
Exactly.
And then we added
our special sauce.
Like,
so number one, right off the bat, after your needs are met and you're like, okay, we're going into this, let's go. Number one is important to use I language. And that's something that we've heard a lot. That's something that you'll find a lot. But it's massively important.
That's like in nonviolent communication. It's in attachment styles. It's like all kinds of things. Like you're speaking what, like I'm saying like what your experience is I'm like using you as an example, but I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling hurt. I was activated and my need for safety felt jeopardized when I saw that. It's just like, just kind of like practicing. It's hard to trying to come up with I statements off the bat. You just really want to stay away from you made me feel bad.
Yeah.
You hurt my feelings. You like probably just even saying that feels heavy. Like as an example, just that feels heavy.
It's okay. So, I'm okay.
Are you okay?
We did that a lot though. I was guilty of that a lot.
Yeah.
Where we would get into the thick of an argument and suddenly everything would be like, when you do this, you do this thing all the time. Yeah. Every time you do this, all of those kind of you statements where I'm directing everything outwardly.
Yeah.
Is
and being like compassion, like trying to just communicate the needs, like still trying to communicate our hurt.
Yeah.
Our hurt. Like this is how I was hurt, but we didn't know how to say I'm feeling this way. It was just you. And that's not saying that the other person doesn't have any effect on how you feel and that actions don't affect the other person. And it's up to the other person how they choose to be affected by the other person's actions, all that garbage. We're not saying any of that crap. But just like how when you're coming at it from love, when you're coming at it with how you are feeling, because that's what it's about, how you are feeling.
Right.
You were feeling a hurt. You were feeling a frustration, a concern, a fear or something. So why not say, I am feeling this. I am experiencing this. This is what it feels like for me when,
Do you remember what we were, because we talked about this too on the podcast, but it was the day that we went into and did True Life with Tiffany and Brad. Do you remember what that one was about? It's so funny because it was like last week. And I'm like,
we resolved it so well that it's not a reoccurring thing. Like
sure.
We nailed it.
I like
we nailed it. Ooh.
Because it was me, right?
I don't remember.
Because I was super activated.
We were both activated.
Yeah. What was the issue?
I don't remember.
I think I wanted, gosh dang it.
You wanted to go to Cut Bob again. And I was like, look, it's no longer my safe food.
Yeah. I don't remember. I was going to use it as an example so we could kind of have an actual example. because we're not going to talk about the ones that we had today. But anyway,
it took us the entire time. We didn't have the printout.
Yeah.
And we were trying so hard to do it.
That's the other thing that we
fly.
have found, right? We'll talk about this concept and idea on this podcast, and you guys will be like, oh God, this is just so good. But it's super important. And maybe we'll share. Are you comfortable sharing?
I was just wondering that. Like, I don't know about.
I think we could. We can share it in conjunction with this episode.
I think we can. There's 2 sites, though. We still have more to talk about with it, though.
Yeah.
So,
but we'll share this to Instagram so you can go have a visual of it. And it's really important. We found it really useful to actually, Steph did a really beautiful job of setting it up and getting it all on paper and printed it out. So we have multiple copies, one in the van, a couple that we can carry around.
Laminated.
Yeah.
It's not really laminated. It's just
It's
packaged.
laminated.
It's like how we laminate because we don't have a laminate machine. So it's like packing tape.
Works great.
It works. So it's laminated.
And it's mounted up on our vision board in the kitchen. So now it's on paper, and it's so much easier to just pull it out and reference it. And Brad and Tiffany actually talked about this too during the episode, and they do the same thing.
Go listen to it. Like, they are the inspiration for this.
Yeah.
They gave us, they shine the light on our path that we didn't know we were supposed to be on yet. We were looking, and they're like, hey, look over here. And we're like, thank you. Thank you. Yes,
so that's
we will
an important
go.
key is get it down on paper so that you can actually use it. The concepts are really beautiful, but trying to bring forth those concepts and the ideas and remember the steps in a sense in the midst of activation is really hard.
I have a really hard time remembering any details.
Yes.
I
forget what we're talking about right now.
It's like 2 rights and a left. And then I'm activated and I'm like, was I supposed to U-turn? I've got to go 3 mile way. I can't remember right, left, what. Okay. So having that paper, just
So we got I language down.
Okay.
Hopefully that makes sense.
I think we spent enough time on it.
I believe so. Number 2, be solution focused. So that's what we were talking about earlier, right? The whole concept and idea is that we're not here to nitpick each other. We're not here to say, you did this, you did this. This is your fault. Fix your shit.
Because of you.
Right. None of that stuff.
This wouldn't happen if you didn't.
Yeah. This is solution focused conflict resolution.
Yeah. What's the end goal? Is it to be right in a fight, or is it to be together and have this so it's not about who's right. It's how are we?
And be solution focused. And what can I do to help you feel loved, safe, and supported? Because I never want you to feel this way. So that's our little reminder to ourselves. And that's literal verbiage that we'll use, right? It's
like from the other, when you're hearing. So if Craig's bringing a hurt to me and telling me how he feels, I'm hearing him. And then my first thing isn't defensive. Well, it's what do you need? How can I help you feel? Acknowledging acknowledging their, validating their pain. How can I help you feel loved, safe? And then that, I never want you to feel this way. You're knowing that I am solution focused. I am on your team here, and that we're in this together at that point, instead of me feeling like I have to justify my actions.
And that's so hard for me for me personally, that's really hard. One of the things that I really struggle with and that are really difficult for me are judgment and criticism. And it's not because I'm so righteous and feel like I'm better than everybody, even though that's how it comes across or has come across sometimes in my life, but it really stems from childhood, and it stems from a lot of deep wounds and a lot of trauma. And so any slight whiff of judgment and criticism is really, really triggering for me. And it's really hard for me to stay present in it from this perspective of I understand that this is a hurt and a wound and a thing that you're feeling, and reminding myself of that it's almost like as soon as I get the sensation and feeling that I'm being judged and criticized, and the thing that happens inside of my body, first and foremost, somatically, I can feel it in my belly and in my chest, right? I have a knot that starts to just twist in my belly. And then almost immediately after the twist, I start hearing my counter arguments. And as soon as I start hearing my counter arguments, that's my pattern interrupt to say, wait a minute. I have to remind myself, I'm only we're in this moment here and we're solution based, and how can I show up for you? See, I'm feeling scared right now because you're looking at me.
Oh,
what can I do to help you feel loved, safe, and supported? Because I never want you to feel this way. And so it's something has happened to cause you to feel something. And I don't ever like.
Yeah, and that's intended or not.
Exactly.
Whether it's a misunderstanding or not, which usually it is, like a misinterpretation, misapply of misinformation.
Yeah.
You know, misunderstanding like the actions, not having the full information. And so just hearing that, oh, you're hurting. This is a hurt and I am here. I never want you to feel this way. And just like hearing and stopping and hearing.
But I have to remind myself of that.
Yeah.
Like I have to literally constantly, because I'm countering all of the negative shadow that is like getting louder and louder in my ear.
Yeah.
Because I start rebutting everything. I start coming up with every single Law and Order episode I've ever seen that's going to counter all of these arguments, right?
Yeah.
And I know now, and I didn't have this awareness up until, I don't know, maybe it's cursory kind of beginning to become aware of this concept of like, you know, it's in the last few years really, and probably even more recent than that. I just like to think that maybe I've been a little bit more, it feels really terrible because that dynamic that goes on in my head where I start to kind of counter everything that you're saying and waiting patiently for my opportunity to say, yeah, but did you ever think of it this way? Or all of those things, it's really hard for me. And I can see that it's triggering a bit for you right now. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not doing anything wrong.
I know.
It's just like that feeling is.
Feels like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an important thing, is you have to remember that you're on the same team and you love each other. And like you said, just what they're saying doesn't necessarily mean that you did anything wrong.
Yeah. And I have something to like add to that, because something that just came up, and one of the things that I got, that I get twisted up in, is when you're solution focused and like hearing that, not immediately waiting for your turn to talk. And like you said, like having your counter arguments for the other person, because how dare they bring a hurt that you caused to an attention, even though they're not saying you caused it, that's how you're perceiving it. So how dare they? Another aspect, which is one that I would do, like I've recently just had a really great call with my therapist who was helping me with this one, was you don't need to go into, it's not like fix it mode, because you're not listening then either. If you're like, okay, I'm going to do this different, this, what do I, you know, when you start immediately going into action and taking steps to fix it, you're not even hearing the whole thing. You got to be still and listen.
That's number 3, active listening.
Active listening. Active listening, not action.
Right.
Not action.
See, that's the step that I missed this morning, was I immediately went to, I have to fix this.
Is that this? I hear you.
You're like, it didn't seem like that was the step.
It felt like it was a different step for me. My perspective was it was a different step.
But see, the way that I fixed it was the old shadow woundy shit, because that's how I fix and solve things.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it wasn't. Okay, so I meant like fixing it, not fixing it for me hearing it, but like, oh, you brought a hurt, so now I'm immediately gonna fix the hurt. So
I hurt you, now I have to fix that.
It didn't. You know what? We got through it.
We did.
I don't have to. I don't need clarity on that.
Yeah.
That is like.
So active listening is key.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And that takes a lot of practice.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that is easily practicable.
Mm-hmm. We have an episode on active listening.
Do we?
We do. We talked. Yeah.
We have so many episodes. I don't remember anything about the podcast.
I don't remember where it was, but
it's somewhere. Pepsi, let us know when you get to it, right?
Thank you.
I dropped my card. I got to pick it up.
Okay.
So
I'm going to wait and just watch.
Yourself.
Talk amongst myself. Okay. Was that it?
That was it. Sorry.
I needed to hold the conversation for you to bend slightly.
Son of a bitch. I dropped that card again.
Okay. So I've got this. So the active listening, there's many different. I'm nervous now.
I know.
As soon as you're like, yeah, I need you to talk for 1 second by yourself.
How funny is it that we're getting uncomfortable trying to share this really useful tip and trick and technique, but we're sitting here fumbling and dropping cards.
I also want to do it justice because it's such a benefit, and it's helping so much. So I really want to make sure that I want it to be understandable and relatable. So when you're listening, you're like you can apply this.
Yeah.
So active listening.
Active listening, I think, is something that's easily practicable outside of this exercise or this conflict resolution, right?
Still practicing the exercise.
And it's something that's really important, obviously, all the time. And the idea is you and I will oftentimes, just in regular conversations, we'll have a clarifier with each other where it's like, hey, are we like brainstorming this? Do you need feedback? Are we actively engaging, or am I just listening? And that helps clarify where the other person is coming from. Sometimes, and we both do this for each other, and it's really beautiful, but sometimes it's, I just want to be heard.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's like, hey, like the other day on the way to jiu-jitsu, you're like, hey, I got something I need your help working out. So you want to be heard, but then we need to brainstorm and talk through it and give me your thoughts and what are your opinions. And
I needed that active communication and this feedback, and we're like in it and coming up with ideas. And
so that's the opportunity to just have clarifiers. Or do you just need to be heard right now? And if that's the case, now I get to just totally practice my active listening, because this isn't a triggered moment where we're dealing with a conflict. This is me just showing up, listening, and being super present with you. So I'm not having anything going through my head. I'm not trying to think about how I have to fix this situation, or, I'm not sitting there coming up with all my rebuttals to what you're saying. There might be an idea that pops into my head about whatever you might be expressing, but I know that I don't need to hold on to that idea and wait for my turn to talk.
I just get to listen. I'm just being heard.
I just get to show up and hear you.
We do another thing with that, which is really helpful, is if the other person, if we really need to be heard and the other person just isn't like picking up on that, we haven't communicated, I need you to hear me right now, or but you're feeling unheard. The other person, like a couple of podcasts ago, you were having a serious conversation and I didn't realize like the depth of it. And I'm making jokes. I'm trying to like keep the conversation light and going. And then you communicated that to me. So instead of me getting defensive and be like, I'm listening, or I didn't, it was just like, oh, this is important to you. You need to be heard. So you're not mad at me for not listening effectively enough, for not having an active listening. And I'm not defensive when you let me know that you need me to be present with you. It's just like, oh, I hear you. And then we go. So that's another way that we practice active listening.
Yeah. So it's kind of...
You saw it here.
Yeah, go back to that episode. It's kind of practicing some of these techniques in less activated situations. So then when you are in the heat of the moment and in the activation, even though you're like acknowledging your needs first and where you're at, I mean, those are key things to get the ball rolling before you actually buy into the argument and, okay, now we're going to go through this. But obviously stuff's going to come up during the argument. Obviously there's going to be some activation that occurs. The idea that you're just going to be able to sit there and have a rational conversation using your conflict resolution list, and
I'm following the steps.
15 minutes later, we're through it. That's beautiful.
We might get there.
Right? More practice,
we can get there.
Right? But it takes practice. And in the practice of it, you're going to have to be able to utilize some of these skills like the active listening and some of these other things that we've talked about. You're going to have to be able to utilize them during activated times. So it's important to practice them when you're not.
When you're not. Remind yourself, like, one of the things, like, this isn't personal. Even though I might feel it's personal, like, I'm being attacked, like, just like, it's not personal. I'm not being attacked. Do you love me enough to bring this to me so that we can work on this, so we can heal this, so we can be solution focused, so we can get through it? You're not attacking me. But sometimes that's hard. Your favorite word, you got to check your ego. I know you love talking about the ego.
I'm okay. It's just my shadow.
Yes,
I'm more comfortable with shadow.
More comfortable with shadow. Like, you have to be willing to be present.
So one of the things on the list in conjunction with active listening is really watch your body language.
Body language.
And that is something
facial expressions.
That is so massively important.
Yeah.
What is it, like 90% of communication is nonverbal or something, right?
Right.
And how important just the way that you're standing, the way that you're holding yourself, the way that you're crossing your arms or not crossing your arms, the way that you physically are. Obviously, we all know what body language is.
We are both really good nonverbal communicators.
Yes. High level.
And it is not always the message that we want to be sending. Yeah. It is our shadows are like, oh, we got this.
Yeah. And so that's a really important thing to practice as well.
Yeah. That was like big awareness for me. There's so many times you've told me like it's written all over your face. You know exactly. I'm like, what? I'm over here smiling, aren't I? I'm happy. Right. You're like, nope.
And I think the reason why that is so important is because of how much information we actually get through those nonverbal actions, right?
Yeah.
There's so much input that's going on that has nothing to do with the words coming out of your mouth. And so if what's coming out of your mouth is in this nice, calm, assertive tone, and that you're really connecting, but you're using, you have all of this really terrible body language in a sense. It's miscommunication, right? What you're saying isn't matching what your body's doing. It's not calibrated. And that's really confusing. And that takes a lot of work as well. I had a lot of awareness of that today. I found myself kind of in the midst of our processing today, closing off physically. And then sometimes I didn't fix it.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of like I needed a moment to almost kind of close off emotionally in a sense. But then as soon as I felt okay, I opened back up and tried to always come back to this place of opening back up physically in a sense with my body language so that I could receive more rather than always staying in some sort of closed off position.
Yeah, you also like helped me with some verbiage because at the beginning when we started this conversation and it turned into like whatever perspective to where I don't know how to say it. How were you describing it earlier when you were activated or like, I don't remember how you were describing it and I don't want to say like you. So what we were referencing earlier when I had my perspective of how we got off track during it and you had your perspective.
Okay.
Took a break. I was like, I need
yes,
I'm hurt right now. I need a minute. And so I communicated that. And then I came back to when I was ready. I just had my little cool off. And then I came back and was like, okay, but I needed a change of scenery. So where we were first having the conversation, needed it to be a different location. You were really great with, you remember that. So, and then I was like caveating or I don't want to keep saying that word.
Does it sound like caviar?
Like if either of us needed a moment, like walk away and then we'll come back. And I kept saying walk away. And it wasn't triggering for me. I was like, this is like, sometimes you just need to walk away for a minute. But it was for you. And I wasn't, and the tone. And I didn't catch it. And you were like, can we say like, if we need a pause.
Take a pause.
And I was like, oh.
And a little break.
That's beautiful. Yes, that's what I'm trying to express. And so it was like even that safety. And so it was like, if we need to pause. So that was your way of like, that's what made me think of it as kind of pausing. Although I would recommend verbalizing it instead of pausing mid-argument, waiting to come back. You know?
Yeah, we got to practice that more.
We do. We got like, I feel like we'll have time.
So number 4, repeat back. What I heard was, so that's you validating what that person just said.
Yeah.
It's really an important step, I believe, because sometimes simple communication that you think is really simple is simply not.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to communicate about really difficult things. And I mean, truthfully, you and I've had awareness as of late too. There's just sometimes where we're talking about the exact same thing, but we both have different definitions of the thing. And so it's like
causing confusion and conflict.
Exactly.
We're like on the same page arguing about the exact same thing, but the language is different.
Yeah.
And we're not talking repeat back isn't like you need to be memorizing what the other person is saying so you can verbatim repeat like a script, like what they're conveying feelings and what it felt like and what they're experiencing and actions. And so it's like active listening is being able to speak back what I'm hearing you say. Is it like, this is how you're feeling and these actions, you know, just like however it comes up, not I'm reading a play and now going to script what you just said. It's
in your own words.
It's in your own words. So they're hearing that, and that clears up confusion right there.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there's like today, one of the things is like, I know I'm not hearing what you're saying. This is what it sounds like. This is what this one was to me. So I know I'm not hearing it right. Would you please try again? Would you please give me another example? And so just like that creates safety too, because I am trying to hear. I think I said, I am committed to understanding. I am committed to hearing you, but I'm not able to process it right now. So would you please keep trying in a different way? So, I'm hearing you, I'm with it. I'm just not understanding, but I want to. You are important to me, and this is important to me. So I want to keep trying, and I want to understand. So that's okay too. You don't have to panic if you don't understand what they're saying. It's like, own it, say it. Like, I'm here.
And that's why that step is so important.
Yeah.
Right. Because if we just keep rolling and we're not on the same page, or if you're not literally understanding what's being said, then how can we come to a resolution?
Yeah. We're just going to run in circles around each other.
Yeah. So that's an important step. In conjunction with repeating back, it's not only what I heard was, but then also, can I tell you what the truth is? Yeah. So oftentimes
after,
yes,
like that,
after the validation and after the repeating back what you heard, and then the other person, okay, I feel heard.
Yeah.
I feel like you understand what I was expressing and that you have heard me.
And that's not like, you're not rushing to that part. So you can like,
get this fight
this is
over
what
with.
it is. This is what it is. Yeah, I heard you, but this is what it actually was. That you're missing the point.
Yeah.
There. It's like really hearing and then being able to share what the truth was, or keep going, please. You're going to eat a hard candy during it?
I know that was
Are
a
we
really
allowed
good idea.
to?
That was
I want a Jolly Rancher.
You want this
no,
one?
No, I don't. I was just kidding.
Okay. That was a great idea.
It's okay. I believe in you. You can do it.
We've been podcasting
Can I click
for
my
6
pen
years.
now?
Absolutely. Might as well, right? So then, can I tell you what the truth is? So that's the opportunity. If there was some misunderstanding of what actually was taking place, whether it's an action or a behavior, or because we acknowledge that oftentimes we are triggered and activated from the other person's actions or behaviors, even though that's not their intention. We might really acknowledge, I know that this isn't your intention, but this is the feeling that I have, and I need it to be heard. And then we need to come up with a resolution. And this is the point of the process where that person whose actions and or words or whatever were the cause of the feeling then gets their opportunity to say, this is where I was coming from. But
that's not right there. It's like after the, like you said, I hear you. I hear this
after
hurt.
The validation. It's right there on the list.
I know it's on the list. I just felt like it needed to be described a little bit, because I was hearing like, oh, we don't need to have this conversation. I don't need to validate you because this is what I meant. So let's just correct this right now.
No, we talked about it.
I know. I'm just telling you how it sounded.
Yeah, it's 4A and then
it's
4B.
4A, 4B. I wrote the list even, and I'm like, hey.
It's because it's really easy to just be like, that's not what it was.
Yeah.
That's not what happened.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what really happened, right? You're wrong. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Your feelings aren't important. Let me just tell you what it really is.
Yeah, and that is not the step. That's not what we're talking about. It's the step in the process where the person who is hurt or triggered feels seen and validated. And once that's really clear and everybody is on the same page, an acknowledgement of this thing has happened, I respect you, I love you, I care about you, it's really important. And you can ask, right? Would it be helpful?
Yes.
Would it be helpful for me to share with you what the action was, or what the truth of what I was experiencing? And if they're like, not right now.
I just needed to be heard.
Exactly. Okay. Right? Because oftentimes we have a higher self. We have this perspective that sees the truth in a sense and knows that loving partner wasn't coming from some evil place. But then we have all of these little inner children and these wounds and this hurt that doesn't see that doesn't realize that. We have emotional wounds and scars that oftentimes keep us stuck and frozen at that spot.
Yeah.
And that's the part that's getting triggered. And that's the part that needs to be seen and validated and loved.
Agreed.
And then it's like, hey, can I tell you what really was going on, what I was thinking, what I was feeling in that moment? So then maybe absolutely, I'd love to hear that. So then that's your opportunity to go through that step.
We had that in the shower the other day where I communicated, like we went through this without our cards, something that was sitting with me and it was hurting, and like I brought it to your attention. We kind of went through, and then you said that, you're like, and what you were saying was not what I heard. And then as soon as like you had heard me, you understood how that was hurtful. You spoke it back to me. So I knew that like I was heard. You didn't make me wrong. It wasn't like we were using appropriate language. And then it was, oh, do you remember what I'm talking about?
No.
It was location. It ended up being about location and not about the person. Really?
Still don't remember.
Okay. It's okay. But when you clarified the truth, what the truth was, and we sat in this, I felt heard, I felt supported, and we were moving through, and then I had the option to opt in to, yes, I wanted to hear what the truth was. And then you told me what the truth was. I was like, oh, okay, I see that. That's not what okay. I wouldn't have been triggered if that's what, so we were able just to move right past it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't, that's not what I said. This is what I was saying. You misunderstood me. So you're never really hearing me. You're never giving, all of these things where it turns into this attack. You're like, oh my gosh, I can hear you. I know how bad that would hurt. And just acknowledge that. And then, you want to know what the truth is? It was this. And then it just disappeared at that moment. It was like, oh, you don't even remember.
I know. I'm so curious. You'll have to tell me when we're done.
You don't even remember.
Yeah.
So like, that's the beauty of it. It is really being present with the other person. That's not taking abuse. It's not taking toxicity coming at you. If the other person is like, you. Like, this is not that conversation. You do not need to opt into this conflict resolution now. If it is coming out you, then you need to listen to you. Listen to your boundaries.
Yeah.
What do you feel like? This isn't a conversation you have to participate in. Like,
it's like when you took your break this morning.
Yeah.
That was really hard.
Yeah.
It made me really look at what I was doing and then be able to see, son of a bitch, right? Here I am repeating old patterns and old cycles of coping mechanisms to protect myself and stay in shame. So it was really useful and beneficial.
And then
and then the last part, well, before the number 5, did I
forget one?
So yeah, 4C.
4C. Oh,
unless you are acting in shadow, then be accountable.
Yeah.
We are in this together. So explain that, because I'm also I believe I know what you mean by that one.
Okay.
I have an understanding of that one, but explain it if you would.
So if I'm sitting down because there's something that I want to bring to the table, I'm like, hey, this made me uncomfortable and I would like to discuss this. And like, I'm going over an action, like I saw this and it made me feel this. I'm feeling this way because, and that's exactly what was taking place. I saw it right. I got it right. And I'm uncomfortable by it. And it's not an action that you want to be doing. It's not a hurt. It's something that we all make mistakes. We're human. We're going to fuck up. We're going to. So when we mess up and the other person holds us accountable, instead of like going through the process, like we're still going through the process, we're still hearing, but now I'm not going to try and spin it another way. I'm not going to be like, oh, this is what it actually is. I'm not going to lie and try and spin it. I'm going to be like, yeah, that's okay. So
I get it.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Are you sure?
I do.
Okay. I have an example.
I don't think I need one.
Okay.
You can give it if you'd like.
Well, your body language. Sorry.
I have
like, oh.
No. The part of it that is,
be accountable for your own shit is what I was trying to say.
Yes.
In a long way. Like,
but
if you fucked up, own it.
Be accountable even if it's coming from shadow.
Yes, if it's coming from shadow.
So the acknowledgement is, hey, I messed up, and we realize that this is a shadow that is, right, a really triggered, wounded part of me that is acting out and behaving this way. That does not negate my responsibility.
Yes.
However, there is a little bit of compassion. I mean, there's compassion.
There's compassion.
Always,
If you're communicating like this, it is compassionate.
right?
Yeah.
But it's because that was the thing that I was struggling with, because that was one thing that I was confused about when I looked at our list. And I should have asked you immediately, and I apologize. Right.
It's okay. We're doing it now. If only had a list to reference.
I know. If only we had some. We're doing our best.
It's
people.
okay. I'm going to make a note. So
I
how we can
understand
change the verbiage if needed.
No, I don't need the verbiage changed.
Okay.
I just needed clarification, because in my mind it was like, if you're coming from shadow, then it's shadow and it's okay.
Oh.
And it's like,
that's,
I mean, all of these things, like you said, we're not perfect, right?
Yeah.
All of these mistakes and all of these hiccups and all of these issues are okay.
Yeah.
Right? Perfection is not the requirement. It's not the need.
Impossible. Nobody is
Right?
perfect. That is just.
Throw that out the window.
Yeah. We're going to make mistakes, everyone.
But yeah, if you are coming from shadow, then it's almost even more compassion of like, this is something that I really need to work on, and this is going to take some practice, as opposed to, boy, I really appreciate you bringing this. I can see it really clear. This is something that needs to change, and I'm going to change it. Like, there's kind of two separate things there in my mind, right? Because sometimes our shadow work and the way that it manifests, especially in relationship, is really hard to see, and also really hard to change. It takes time, and it takes patience, and it takes compassion. And then there are other times.
It takes accountability and boundaries as well, too. It's not like.
Exactly. And so that's the agreement ahead of time going into this type of relationship. Even if I'm coming from shadow and I can't see it, I'm willing to take accountability for that and continue to do the work to get out of that space, to move into this spot where we can heal and communicate. And this is no longer going to be a shadow.
Yeah. And then this is how step 5 comes in. Because now it's not just saying, I see this, I'm taking accountability, I'm not going to do this, or whatever. Yeah. Now you're giving an action. So now it's time for a plan.
Create a resolution that has an I statement from both parties. And remember, we're in this together. Yeah. And those are hard.
Those are hard. So when you're like, coming from shadow, what is your plan when this comes up?
Right.
It's not saying this will never happen again. This also coming up with your plan, like you're accountable for your plan. It's not now I'm not accountable because I'm just going to give you a plan. I'm going to throw stuff out there and I'm never going to be accountable for acting this way. Like, no, you come up with the plan, and then you've got to, like, you act that plan. That's why the plan is there. You have to take action for yourself. You have to take action and be accountable. So when we're coming up with that, it isn't you are going to do this, or if you do this, then I'll do this. It's like, oh, this is my shadow. And regardless of whose ever shadow comes up, remember, we're in it together. So it's what's in front of you. So each of you having a plan of when this situation arises, and maybe it never does. Maybe it never does again, but chances are it's going to.
Right.
So what are you going to do on your own to be solution focused? Not based on what the other partner's doing, but like, what are you doing? How are you standing up for the relationship?
Exactly. That's it.
You don't have any, like, there's...
I have a lot, obviously.
We'll do it. Like, we're both giving our takes here, and I think it's beneficial for both of us to share.
Those I statement resolutions are really important. And that's where you start to shift this stuff, right? That's where you go from this being a continually on. We've had so many arguments and issues and things over the course of our relationship that just never went anywhere. We would either choose to not deal with them, or we would deal with them and they wouldn't change, and then we would choose to not deal with them, and then they'd come up again. And that pattern and that cycle has been kind of our MO.
We are both avoidant. We're anxious avoidance, or avoidant attack.
Whatever the other aggressive communicator is, I'm very much that sometimes.
Okay. I was talking like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, also, like, I was more leaning towards attachment styles instead of communication styles, because the attachment style will like mitigate to and influence the communication style, because the more avoidant you are, like, the more aggressive, as the anxious is the panic and the clingy and I guess you can actually, anxious gets aggressive too, because then it's that reactive and panic and lashing out. But the difference is anxious after is like, oh, and avoidance like, see ya.
So all these things that we've outlined are just the 5 easy steps. Super easy. You can tell. Right?
You can tell.
Took us 45 minutes to get through them, but it is actually really beneficial.
Yeah.
And it's something that we have started to implement on a really regular basis. And it's funny because we're trying, like, it's almost like we're using it for stuff that isn't necessarily needed, right? We could probably
we're practicing.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
We're like, should we, like, I think we gotta, how are you? Are your needs
Right.
met? Baby, we're just going to the grocery store. I just got to check. Are you okay?
It's so helpful though.
It is.
It is so helpful, like practicing, because sometimes like, no, their needs aren't met. It is not a thing. And it's like, having that awareness as to where this could have steamrolled into something else.
Yeah.
But we're practicing. So we're checking. I love it.
Yeah. And just that simple, like the precursor rules before you get into the conflict of recognizing, are their needs met? Mm-hmm. That little simple thing also has been massively beneficial for us with parenting and recognizing we're not going to bring forth a topic or a conflict or an issue that needs to be addressed if their needs aren't met.
Yeah.
And that is, are they tired? Are they hungry? Are they, whatever it might be for that kid? We're not going to even begin the conversation until those needs are met. Otherwise, and we have massive experience of, let's have this conversation right now.
Yeah.
And it's chaos and trouble and so many different things. So that one beginning first step and rule is so key. So key.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We'll share these. Like we said, we'll throw it up on Instagram in conjunction with this episode when it comes out. So you can go to Instagram and get a screenshot of it. And
if you like, also, we'll just like real quick, the back of the card.
We're not going to share that.
We're not going to share that part. Okay. We'll come up with your own, because I just teased to that. So one of the things that is also beneficial, if you have a willing partner who's ready to work like and have this conscious communication with you, this conscious conflict where they're solution oriented with you. They're like, man, I don't know what this is, but I'm willing. I'm going to experiment with you. I'm going to get curious. Things that you need to feel safe. If you have awareness of that, like there's so much that, okay, I'll keep it simple because this will take off in a whole other one.
We can share them.
So that's not what I'm saying. Slow your roll.
I'm listening.
Okay. What I was trying to communicate, I'm a little triggered right now. I feel like.
What happened?
Okay. I'm just going to breathe for a second. I know. You already said we're not going to share them, and that was great. But when I was struggling and stammering, you came in with the fix immediately, which makes me feel like I'm not doing a good job. And I just used you statements. You came in with the fix. So this is not an example. Boy, I'm feeling pretty incapable at the moment. What I was trying to communicate is having some awareness of things that you need to feel safe during conflict. Things that it's not necessarily the other person's responsibility, but how does your soul get fed? Like some of mine are not only that do I need to know that I am safe, I need to know that everyone is safe. And I'm not talking about the planet. I'm talking like our kids. Like I need to know that our family is safe when we're going into this conversation. I need to know that I'm being heard, that some of Craig's, you want to share a couple of yours?
Yeah. One thing that's really important to me, especially if I'm highly active, like if I'm really activated and I'm really triggered and I'm in this really kind of in that mindset where I'm looking to rebut everything and I'm feeling super criticized and super judged and all these kind of things. If I'm feeling that way, it's really important to me to have really clear language and clear speech. It's like things need to be really crystal clear. So that's really important because my brain in those moments can't understand nuance and can't fill in the blanks of an emotional expression. It has to be very clear speech for me during those moments.
So those are little things that you can reference to as well when you're in this, and seeing if you see like things starting to turn, a little bit of agitation coming in, seeing each other's, like we have both of ours at first. When I was going to make it, it was just going to be what Craig needs to feel safe on the back of my card and what I need to feel safe on the back of his card. And then it was like, no, like we're in this together. So it was both of ours. So we have that reminder. And so much of it was like his needs to be safe. I felt like were kind of like really what my needs were at that moment. And it kind of seemed like your needs were what my needs. So we just had this like share thing where we had that awareness. So
these are different.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm having a hard time communicating this one.
These are different than are your needs met before you get going? Because we've already accommodated for those, right? This is when we're in the thick of it and we're moving through it. And we designated two separate things. One is when you're in a highly activated state, almost like a fight, if we're looking at it from the fight or flight response. So you're in a very much of a activated state when you're wanting to fight and argue.
Like, oh, we're going to fight. Here we go.
Here we
like
go.
It is like.
And then the opposite end would be in this deep hurt state when you're frozen and you're scared and you're like not wanting to be in the environment and the situation, but you can't get out of it.
When you feel defeated.
Right.
Just like broken.
So the needs that are needed or the needs that the individual's needs in those two states sometimes can look very different. And that's important to recognize. Example? Yeah.
I have one. Okay.
Go ahead. What's yours?
It was off of yours, like your high activation, which is like the same, like for me, I didn't put it on, but like, it's funny how they marry each other, is space to cool off initially. Like we're always going to come back, but space to cool off. And if it's a deep hurt, that's going to trigger the abandonment. And so it's that like that comfort is what you're needing in that point. So those are two very different needs depending on what kind of emotion is at place. So that was an extra step that we did that we felt was beneficial.
Yeah. If I'm in that deep hurt kind of place, it is really important for me. Like suddenly it doesn't become about let's solve this problem and go back to ice. It becomes about I need comfort. I need things to be really soft. I need to be seen and validated. Basically, I just need a lot of love and attention and comfort and compassion. And that's going to allow me to kind of regulate and come back. Okay, now we can come up with our I statement resolutions or wherever we're at in the process. But until we get some of those needs met in that space, and it might be like, this morning you took a break.
I had to take a break.
You're highly activated. You were really triggered. You're like, I need a moment. And so it's just, that's kind of like the audible. Like if you're in the midst of these conversations and in these conflicts and you're getting really triggered in one way, shape, or form.
If the other person is like not like showing up, then there's all these different, and it's not like holding hostage, like you better show up this way or I'm going to walk off. It's none of that. It's none of that narcissistic traits that you may have learned and picked up on. This is like the rules of engagement coming from the wound as opposed to rules of engagement coming from the higher self. And so we're working on coming from the higher self and realizing we're like caretaking each other in a sense, and those needs, we're co-regulating each other, can be twisted.
Yeah.
But when you're coming from higher self, when you're both coming from higher self and you're seeing that you are solution based, we're not in, I want you to make it better for me, or like I need to put the blame on you, or however it just goes. When you're like, we are solution based, it's not one person or the other, we're not against each other here, we are solution based. And those needs, seeing what that other person needs, you're able to co-regulate, you're able to give that love because it's not twisted.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll share those.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to tweak them a little bit because they have some uniqueness and some specialness that is just us.
Yeah.
And that's us. That's not for anybody else. But we'll share that list as well in conjunction with everything else, because it's an important thing to look at, because it will happen. You will get activated. Obviously, we all know this, right? If you're in a relationship, stuff's going to come up, and we're all aware of that.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
That's how you grow.
That's how you heal.
Yeah.
That's what shadow work's all about. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Once again, this is our take on stuff that we've learned recently from the yoga couple. So go check them out on Instagram. Also, Brad and Tiffany Lancaster, the True Life Balance podcast. They have great stuff as well. We're big fans of theirs. We were on their show, whether or not it's out during this episode. I don't know when it's coming out. If it is, go listen to it.
If it's not,
it'll
look
be
for
out
it
soon, right?
Go listen to their other stuff in the meantime. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And this is high-level relationship work that takes a lot of commitment and work, and it's not easy. So that's why we're sharing it. Anything else, baby?
That's it.
Okay.